What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Zach and Pat Show. I'm Zach.
I'm Pat.
This is the show about manhood, fatherhood, entrepreneurship, and the mentality it takes to be successful at those things. And we'll probably sprinkle in some helpful real estate advice too, because that's what Pat and I do. You know, guys, life can be tough. We can go through some things and struggle at times, but this is the show to let you know that you're not alone. So if you're someone out there going through any of these things, this is the show for you. Shout out to our friends at NeuroGum for keeping us energized and focused. NeuroGum is a chewing gum as well as mints. It's got a little bit of caffeine, L-theanine, and vitamins B6 and 12. Helps with memory and focus. I really like to chew it, all the time. Whenever I'm just driving around showing houses or making phone calls to clients or before a big meeting, before a listing appointment. Anytime I just feel like I need a little bit of a mental boost, I will pop a piece of NeuroGum and it gets me to where I need to be. So get out there and try some NeuroGum.
And also shout out to our guys over at Captain Beard Co. So they make unbelievable products. So if you're looking for men's grooming, so beard, they got butter, balms, oils. They also have shampoo, conditioner, and body wash. And it's all made with all natural ingredients. It's here local to St. Louis, and it's a great company. And I use it all the time. Rana, I got to get some more shampoo and conditioner because it's amazing. I use their body wash every day, and then I put a little bit of beard oil or beard balm in my in my beard on a daily basis. It's great. I get a lot of compliments on how good it smells. They've got some unbelievable scents. And if you're also looking to set the mood, they do have some amazing smelling candles. So check out Captain Beard Co. Use the promo code Zach and Pat for 10% off your purchase.
Now to introduce our awesome guest today. She's a friend of mine. She's a business owner. She's an attorney, the great and powerful Katie Finnegan Krispin.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here, guys.
Hello.
Of course. Thank you.
Well, Katie, for the people out there that don't know you, why don't you just give us I will get into more detail of things, but just kind of give them a brief overview of who you are.
For sure. My name is Katie Finnegan Krispin. My maiden name, that's been so hard for me to drop. I'm officially down to Katie F. Krispin.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know.
Finnegan. But yeah, so I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. I went to high school here. I went to Narings Hall High School. Got to shout it out, as you guys know. I went to Mizzou for undergrad, and then I went on to SLU Law School. So I've been a practicing attorney for 5 years now, and I've held, prior to starting my own business, I've held two jobs, one where I worked for a judge for the state of Missouri, and then the other one where I was in private practice. So, in terms of my background, it's pretty standard, nothing too exciting, but I hope that my journey, which is obviously lifelong, continues to show that, I'm just an average Joe. I'm just like everybody else. I just continue to push myself and get to where I am now. So I opened my business, the Katie F. Krispin Law Firm. It's not very... the name, I need to work on the name, but I opened that up in September, at the end of September, technically, of last year, and I've just been rolling ever since. And there's a lot to unpack there, but has been the best decision I've ever made, aside from
your lovely husband, who's a good friend of mine.
All right, I got to put that in there. But yeah, it's been awesome. So, and honestly, it's people like you that have inspired me to get to this point. So thank you. I hope to continue this path and just keep getting better.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I know there's a lot of different paths that you can go down as an attorney with a law degree. What path did you decide you want to take your law or your law practice?
So I went to...
Was being a lawyer always the plan?
No.
Okay.
So... I really didn't think about going to law school until I was a sophomore or junior in college. I came from a family with, I guess, a health background. My mom is, she has her career in health and moved on to administration of a hospital. And then my sister is a physical therapist. So I always kind of saw myself following their path, and doing, I always played sports growing up. I was like the tomboy. And I have 3 older siblings, 2 older brothers and an older sister. I'd wear my brother's clothes, not my sister's. So I just kind of always had an interest in sports and physical activity. So I thought, okay, physical therapy, that sounds great. I have an affinity towards science, math. Reading comprehension was never my strong suit. So that was my path. I got to Mizzou and I was still working at a hospital when I come home for breaks and stuff, kind of working as a physical therapy tech. And it just got to this point where I had like made this realization. I didn't even really know. I mean, at the time I was 18, 19, like I don't really know. I can't think big scale. Like, what do I want to do? I don't know. So
Crazy is that we're in college and they're like, this is an important time, and they're like, you need to decide right now.
yeah,
Insane.
it is insane. And I think that this is a whole other topic that would take hours to go into, but like education and how necessary that is. I've heard you guys talk about it in your Pat or other podcasts episodes, and it's like I wonder where the world is headed with that.
It's like we've got small kids, and it's like, I mean, is college going to be? I mean, for what I do for a living, like I have a degree, and I've never used it. I've been out of college for 10 years now, and I've not needed it. I've never needed it. I've been thankfully I've just the path that I've gone into. I didn't need to do that, but how many? I know that I'm not alone in that. I can think of so many people that I know that went and got a degree that that are working at Starbucks or they're waiting tables, or they're doing something where it wasn't necessarily something that they went to school for, or maybe they're working in a job where it has nothing to do with like their major or whatever it is, but they they got a degree. So yeah, it's weird. It's crazy. It's just like, I don't know if it'll be around when, I mean, Pat and I both have small kids, and it's like, 15, 20 years from now, is that going to be like the standard path? Like, because I'm sure all three of us, we were all like, we felt this pressure to go to college. Like, if you didn't go to college, like, you're kind of a loser, or maybe not a loser, but like, you just, that's what everybody was doing. So you just wanted to do it too.
Also, you got to look at the state of the economy too when we were doing that. So like, I was coming out when the Great Recession was happening. You guys were going in like right after the Great Recession had happened. So for us, my generation was go to college, and then once you get done with college, in order for you to get a job, you had to have your master's. So then everybody stayed for the master's. One, there wasn't any jobs to be had, and two, they had to get in order to get a job. Like I like to compare the job market when we were coming out of college to what the housing market had been the last few years, where you had so little supply and a shit ton of demand. And so you had to do whatever you could to separate yourself. And that's why everybody was going back to get your master's. And that's why I would say like my generation of the millennials is so boggled down from being able to buy a house is because of their student loan debts. It's insane.
Yeah, dude, I think it is going to come to a head. I mean, I don't know. You guys have such an interesting perspective with having young children. I mean, I'm even thinking about that now. I don't have kids, but history repeats itself, right? So we might get in a point where it is like apprenticeship and trades, and then it'll go back up to education. So who knows? But I will say, for like specialized education, certain master's programs.
For certain people, yes, law, doctor, like there's plenty of professions where it's absolutely necessary, but like just for you to go get like a marketing degree or something, like
Or that shit on you.
yeah,
Totally.
like,
And I think like us kind of realizing that too is us taking the step to, and with like the internet, World Wide Web is beautiful. I don't know how people function without it. That's an ignorant millennial thing to say, but
sure, no, I don't know how to get anywhere.
yeah, but we are like self-teaching ourselves, right? And it takes the initiative to do that. But I think there's just so much to be learned, and like if you didn't use your degree in terms of like what you do now, it's because you've self-taught your way to this point. And so there's a lot of like, I don't know, for me that's like very inspiring, and is reassuring to me that even in my profession, like there's so much that I don't know, and I have now, practicing 5 years, I've come to terms with that, and I'm okay with that. And it's like, I'll have meetings every day where somebody will say, well, what about this with my estate plan? And I'm like, I don't know the answer, but I know exactly how to figure it out. And if it's out of my realm of expertise, like I can't get there, I'm going to refer it out. So I think I just went on a tangent. I apologize.
No,
That's what the purpose of this is.
But I mean, in no ways did my health science degree set me up. I mean, my experience in college, that's all made me who I am. But I wouldn't say with what I'm doing right now, it has necessarily aided me. But that's what I graduated with from Mizzou was Bachelor in Health Science. And I came from a family, middle class. My family's just a good family. You know, I've always been privileged in the sense that, like, you know, I'm the fourth of the kids. I'm the youngest. So, like, all my older siblings did extra education. So there was really no question in my mind whether I was going to do it. It was just going to be what was it. So the transition from like this health science background to law was, well, my older brother went to law school, and then my sister met Paul Brusati, who Zach knows, John Brusati. God, I love that shout out.
Oh yeah,
podcast.
yes, sir.
But he went to law school, and so it's been really. I kind of saw what they were doing, my brother and my brother-in-law now, and so it's kind of like, wow, well, here's this degree where I could really, for someone who didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do, there's a lot of different ways I could.
Yeah, you can cuss. Yeah, okay. Yeah, free reign here, Mom.
It's Brian's mom who I'm worried about. So there was just like a lot of free reign, and that was kind of like the attraction to me with law school. And I think, like, at the time I didn't really know, but now I know, like, there was a part of me that realized, like, there's this whole other thing that I consider a handicap, reading comprehension, that I'm not good at. Here's an opportunity for me to be good at it. So, you know, when I entered law school, I was like, oh my God, these people knew from day one they wanted to be lawyers. They knew a lot about the law, just like, you know, what's going on with the world politically. And, like, I'll be honest, sitting here today, I still don't really pay attention to the news. It's frankly hard to keep up with. It's a lot more drama than I want to.
Yeah, honestly, like, me, when I cut that shit out of my life,
Dude, I
was so much happier. Like, it is amazing how influential the media is on people. That is insane. As soon as I cut that out, I was emotional.
I just feel like it's so much negativity. I feel like if you just want to go get pissed off and you go turn on the news and there's going to be something on there that's going to upset you. And I feel like that's kind of what it's designed to do, you know? And
how would get you to hate?
Yeah, something else. Or who do you want to go be pissed off today? Go turn it on, you know, the news.
Yeah.
And I think and especially with the internet, there's so many other ways to get your information that I think is, you know, that independent stuff that's usually going to be, you know, not biased and not have some sort of agenda attached to it. And yeah,
totally. I mean, it's, you know, it's so divisive, and it just gets to a point where, like, at first I was really into having those conversations and wanted to argue, and I'm like, oh, I'm a lawyer, I should know this stuff. I should be able to argue these points. And then I just was like, what? Why am I doing this? I think it makes people so close-minded, and, like, I just try to stay as open-minded as possible, see both sides. If I'm not educated on a political topic, which is frankly often, I just don't insert my opinion where it doesn't need to be. So, anyway, I digress. I went to law school kind of like just figuring it out, and I was figuring it out, like, all along. And I just still, like, I kind of still had that, like, health science. So I thought maybe I wanted to do, like, medical malpractice. You know, you review medical records, and I liked when you think of law, you think transactional and litigation. Those are the two big umbrellas. Transactional, more contracts, more, transactions, right? And then litigation is, like, in the court. So I kind of lean towards litigation because to me it felt more challenging. I'm not a public speaker. I get nervous, like, having to argue my point. I second guess myself. So again, it was like, I'm gonna throw myself into the discomfort to become better. So that's kind of where after law school, so I graduated in 2019. So it was wonderful because I actually got a real ceremony the next year, who Brett Weber, graduated the year after, and he just got, I think they did it like online.
It was like through Zoom.
Scrolling through it. It's like, oh, God. You worked so hard. And so, yeah, I graduated in 2019. I went to the work for a judge at the Court of Appeals. So that's a state court. There's 3 Court of Appeals in Missouri. The one in St. Louis is Eastern District. And then there's also the Western District, which is like Kansas City area, and then Southern. And it's all like the, like the rural areas, a lot of the rural areas.
Is that screw North Missouri?
Yeah. I'm not eat that shit. Yeah.
It's in northern Missouri. Then what is what's called that Iowa?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. That's just no man's land. No offense. Those people that live there, wonderful place.
You guys are great people, I'm sure.
Missouri's great.
We're just talking shit.
But so I did that for a year, and it's called a clerkship. So I was just kind of doing.
So are you in the court like all day with like the judge, or how does that?
So you're in the old post office downtown. Do you guys know that building? It's a beautiful building. They have weddings. Yeah, they have weddings there. So I was in there, and oral with Court of Appeals, it's not like you have the trial court, and then you have the Court of Appeals, and then you have the Supreme Court. This is all within the state. And then there's the federal structure as well. But trials are happening every day in the trial court. But in the Court of Appeals, there's what's called oral argument. And that's where a case gets appealed, and it goes, there's 2 lawyers, or however many, but usually 2 that argue on appeal to like a panel of judges. So my judge was one of the judges that sat on the panel. I don't know how many Court of Appeals judges there are, like between 12 and 15. Okay. But that only happens once a month. So I was really only observing court once a month. It's a very chill job. You're working for the state. So, you're taking a pay cut, but the experience is valuable. I was getting criminal cases, civil cases, and I'm basically just writing all day. I'm writing, I'm consulting with the judge. You can't underestimate the power of relationships, and observing. So a lot of learning is through observation. I was doing a lot of observing of just like the way the judge does stuff, the way the lawyers talk to the judges, the way the lawyers acted. Like sometimes I would see one lawyer's getting up there arguing to the panel of judges, and I can see the other lawyer because I'm sitting in the stands, and he's like scoffing, or he or she's scoffing or making faces, and like everybody can see that. And that's important. But so it's just kind of like, it was a lot of learning.
Yeah, I feel like it was probably a great like first year to kind of get out into the real world and kind of like really see what it was really like.
Totally.
Because we all learn in a classroom, and then you kind of see or you hear what it's really going to be like, but until you actually get out into the world and like see how things really work, it looks a little different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's how you really learn. Right. And so it was great. And the judge told me that. Like, I actually interned for him for a semester while I was in school, and so it kind of just bled into after. And if you talk to like lawyers, like a lot of people do that path where they do that year of clerkship after law school because of the connections and the observation hours. And the judge said from day one, he's like, this is a continuing education. Get as much out of this as you can. You're not going to be here long, because people usually stay 1 to 2 years. It's kind of a temporary thing. Just be a sponge. And so that's exactly what I did. And I worked as hard as I could, and I learned so much, and I still have a relationship with the judge. Those are lifelong relationships.
That's probably a good relationship to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Still have a relationship with his judicial assistant. Like you build those relationships there. And from there, I went into private practice. And so that's when I started with this estate planning, estate administration, litigation, was doing like general litigation stuff.
Now, what made you decide to go into that private? Is that when did you kind of make that decision at some point during the clerkship? Like, all right, I think estate planning is like what I feel kind of called toward, or like?
Not at all. So you take one class, trust and estates, in law school, and there are that's a required class. It's on the bar exam. And then you can, if you're paying attention and realize how valuable that niche of the law is, then you can take other classes, tax related classes, that kind of stuff. I was not paying attention. So I took trust and estates in law school, and I was kind of like, okay, what is this stuff? And the reason I got connected with my previous boss, who that's their specialty, they've been doing it for decades, was Brett.
Yeah, I know Mr. Gunn.
Yeah. Oh, you.
I've met him.
Yeah. Okay. So Brett Weber. Sure.
Yeah, shout out to Brett. She-dubs.
But
I feel like the kid that's left out.
Yeah, sorry, you don't know any of these people.
I know her brother.
Yeah.
not important.
Nah, hey, you'll meet him someday.
Yeah, sorry, Alan.
Katie.
You're going to the wiffle ball tournament this year. I'm bringing a guy who played professional baseball to the wiffle ball tournament. So
Oh, that's big dick energy.
yeah, throwing heat.
Yeah. Hey, as long as he's on your team.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah. Last year I got drafted with like the 2 best people, and I'm not a good wiffle ball player. So we made it pretty far, but I just because I was with 2 people that were really good, and it was just like I think they do a random draft that day, so you're just kind of luck of the draw. But yeah, we do an annual wiffle ball tournament every year at our friend Brett's house.
Yeah. Yeah. I went to watch that wiffle ball tournament as the other women did. And man, I wanted to get out there.
It's rowdy.
But
it's
as well,
fun.
I've learned my place. Like, now let's start for us. But there was like a rainy day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it poured the whole time.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the last time, or like the last 3 games, they're supposed to be 3-inning games, and I think this was like I can't remember if it was the finals or like the semifinals, but we were there, and it was supposed to be a 3-inning game, and it went to 12 innings because every time it just kept getting extended, and it was pouring the whole time.
Yeah.
Like everybody else is like under like the little awning or umbrella thing, and like we're just out there, and it's just, I mean, it was middle of summer, so it's like warm, but you're just getting rained on the whole time, and it was a blast.
And the pitcher's mound is just all
Mud. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, the pitcher's mound and the batter's box are you're just standing in like just mud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fords.
Yeah, I think Timmy had like brand new white shoes, and I'm like, what are you doing? And of course, I care about I'm like, your shoes are getting dirty. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
None of the guys care. Maybe that's why I'm not out there playing. But okay, so I got
So you got connected with Brett. Brett, no,
so.
all good. No, this is the fun parts of this. So you got connected with. I mean, obviously, Brett. Brett's a good friend of ours. He'd been working for him already, I guess.
Yeah, he worked for him throughout law school. So I got connected with him actually before I started. It was like my senior year, so before senior year, 3rd year, last year in law school, and I told him I got connected with John Gunn, who's who I'm talking about. I told him I wanted to do this clerkship. He had done it 25 years ago. He's like, that's a great idea. We'll see if it works out. So then he contacted me about like a year and a month into my clerkship. And he's like, I've got a spot. Are you ready? And at the time, of course, immediately, like the immediate reaction is like, no, I don't know if I'm ready. But then I thought,
Where am I listening?
now or never. Let's
What am I waiting on?
Yeah. And I guess probably part of that was because it was trust and estates, and I just did not know anything about it. But I mean, you got to start somewhere, and that's what I thought. I thought I'll dive in, I'll get as much as I can out of it, and then see where it brings me. And so that's what I did. And of course, it was fun working with Brett.
Working with Brett.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fun dynamic.
Brett, I'm looking forward to meeting you.
Yeah.
Don't be disappointed. We're vibing about. I'm just kidding. Yeah, it was like a fun dynamic. My boss owned the firm. But his dad previously owned it, so he passed it down. So it was a family firm, and there's, some fun elements to that, some challenging, but some fun elements. And so I did that for almost 4 years. And my main practice there was litigation. So I was dealing with a lot of the contested issues with an estate. So,
Some examples of that.
well, so it would be, people are like, okay, we're probably dealing with when people don't have a will or an estate plan and the ramifications of that. And that's true. Yes, there was a lot of that. There's a lot of discourse that comes with that. And then there were a lot of issues with, mismanagement of trusts and estates, kind of bad players, a lot of siblings fighting over parents assets.
I've got some experience with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's unfortunate. People can get ugly, with that kind of stuff.
There's true colors on their mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fortunate.
Yeah, it is. And there were a lot of days where I was like, what am I doing? How am I helping people? Just you get bogged down in the emotion of it. And there were just like days where I would wake up and I'd have an email just pages long of just bitching, honestly. And I'd wake up to that at 5 a.m. and I'm like, oh my God, is this how I'm going to start my day? So, because I got in there and I was just grinding as hard as I could. Like I had my head down and I just wanted to do a really good job and I wanted to learn as much as I could. And then, I kind of came to this point where I just like started to look up and see like get more like in the deep root of why people are fighting and like look at it more as like there's a lot to be learned about relationships and communication. And one thing that I think was the biggest takeaway with that job is that I learned like how to communicate differently to different people, communicate differently to clients, communicate differently to opposing counsel, co-counsel, the judges when I would get in court. You've got to act a certain way. At the end of the day, you're trying to convince people to do what you want them to do. So it's like, do what you want them to do. A judge making a decision, they have the all-time say. But really, it's just kind of being a good and normal person and not like dying on a hill when you know you have a losing argument. You can recognize that, hey, this isn't necessarily in my way, but here's how it maybe can be seen that way. And then you just leave it and you let the judge decide. But there's a lot of lawyers who I think just like don't understand that, and then they take it too far, and then it just creates more chaos and more discourse among the parties. And at the end of the day, and I had to remind myself of this a lot. I had my like certificate or diploma or whatever right above my monitor, and I always looked up. And I mean, technically, I'm an attorney, but I'm also a counselor of law or at law, which means like there is a lot of counseling involved. People come to me, and I'd be like, "Can you go see a therapist? I'm here to talk about the law." But I think I learned that really important piece of communication and relationships. And I think it's made me a better lawyer and a better person. And I went on a tangent. So,
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, it's great.
Well, that's awesome. So, yeah, I mean, we see the stuff on TV, like you see the TV shows and stuff like that. Like, I'm sure just like the hospital ones, like you see, it's not really like that. Like, how does that? Because I mean, I love those, like the Lincoln Lawyer.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, Lincoln Lawyer. We just watched that.
Yeah, so good. It's so good. Yeah, I'm like, I know that's not how it is in real life or Suits. Like,
How off is that? Are those shows like that? Like in terms of
Well,
just like,
there's not as much like scandal amongst. I mean, I came from a family firm. Like we went in there, we did our job, and we got out. Like it's not like the fun like intricacies of like
The office relationships and all that.
yeah, like it's not people sleeping with people or whatever. But in terms of like in the courtroom, I'd say they obviously dramatize it.
Make it more elaborate and
You guys would probably, I don't know, but I would assume you'd be bored to death with some of the like court stuff that I've been a part of. It's just like, unless you're so deep in it that you become like passionate about it and like just so you want your position to win so badly, it can be boring. And so, I've done like, since I've started my own practice, I've done like estate planning meetings. And I have been trying to fold Brian into it. Like, oh, let's like go, meet our friends or whatever. And we'll talk business and then we'll like hang out. And that's like been a really cool part of opening my business is I can kind of just do that
casually.
And he's like, okay, yeah, like doesn't really want to hear my whole like spiel all the time, which I get. And I'm like, but this is our business together, whatever I get to say to get him there. But so I
try the same thing.
Yeah,
It doesn't work very well.
I mean, I find it so interesting and like, of course I do. But I can understand where it's not It's not like the movies. I don't want to kill your dreams. Or
No, that's not figure it was.
Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, we could pretend. It's fun. They're gonna make it. Yeah.
So what ultimately led you going from the gun law firm to you stepping out and doing your own thing?
So it was really, I mean, frankly, it started with in February of 2021. My husband came to me. He said, "I think I want to do 75 hard," and I said, "What?" Like I didn't know what 75 hard was. I didn't even take the chance to look it up. He was telling me what it was about. He's like, you have to do these 5 tasks, one of which is not drinking. And I just could not fathom not drinking. Like who doesn't, we go out on the weekends, who doesn't drink? And so I was like, that's great for you. I'm happy for you, but like, good luck. I mean, prior to that, we had like eaten healthy. We had worked out, not every day, but we were doing okay. But on the weekends, we would splurge big time. And so it like didn't feel like totally derail of our normal lifestyle, except the like, okay, so now I've got to go out to the bar with him and he's going to be the guy that's not drinking. And I understand like that sounds so ridiculous now, but at the time that was my mindset. I was like, oh God. So I thought, no way, like good luck. I'm not going to do it. Then I woke
21 year how? You guys are what? In their early 20s?
Oh, no, 2021, so it's 3 years ago.
5 years.
4 years ago, so 27.
26, yeah.
27, it's okay.
27. Yeah, so people are going, I was going out like 3 times a week, whatever. Maybe not 3, that's makes me sound cooler than I am, but certainly every weekend. And so it got to the point where he like started, I guess he probably, started, it was February. And he woke up that morning to work out, and I was like, woke up with him. I was like, there's no way I'm going to watch you do this. Like, because at the time, I'm thinking, oh, he's going to get shredded, and I'm just going to stay the same. And, I was doing fine, but like, there's always room for improvement. And so I dove right into that. And
So you just decided, all right, you're doing it, I guess fuck it, I'll do it too. God damn it, Brian.
yeah, I know. And I had told all my friends like the weekend before, I was like, yeah, he's doing this. Like, there's no way I'd do it. And then I started it and they're all like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, it really was like a split decision. And I'm so glad that it happened because it has been such a process since February 2021. I mean, we both did the program, we completed it. At the time, I thought that I'd gotten like the most out of it that anyone should. But I'm embarrassed to say that we had and I know you know this because you were invited, a 75 hard like party afterwards. And I wish you would have told me like, this is not what you're supposed to do, but I had to figure it out.
I attended.
So
Well, it was just like we just haven't drank for 2.5 months. Everybody come over to our house and let's get fucked up,
Like, how ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
But it like, that's kind of the beauty of 75 hard too, is it like opens you up to realize like, and Zach and I were just talking about this before, but like drinking is so ingrained in our culture. It's everything we do together. And so like, it really kind of wakes you up to that. And I figured that out then, but then I even way more so figured it out the second time I did it, which was last year. So I started, January 1st, 2024, and I ended up failing on day 33 because I overate on pistachios.
Oh, I forgot. Yes.
And so
We ate too many.
people just ream me for it. They're like, what? Pistachios are healthy.
But it's like it wasn't part of my diet, or it wasn't part of my macros, or whatever.
Overate, and like nuts are good, and proportionally. But I knew, like, I actually remember, like, I work out at Club Fitness, so there's this side room with a mirror, and I was on the bike in the mirror, and I was like trying to convince myself that it's okay, it's just pistachios, like, don't be ridiculous. But I remember looking like, no,
You're lying to yourself.
yeah, you're lying, and then you're not doing it right then. And so it was day 33. I started over. I thought I had documented this journey more on social media. But because I wanted to expose it to people.
That's the part of it that I always did too. I always it was like an accountability thing for me. Like I was like, oh well, if I was like, people don't care that I'm posting like 1 of 2 workouts, 2 of 2 workouts, or whatever the thing was that I was posting that day. But I was like, people don't care. But I was like, that's my showing the world that like I'm doing it, and like if I don't post it, like then people are gonna think that I didn't do it or something. So I was like, that was like my way to hold myself accountable. And I think that, I mean, that's essentially what I used it for by putting it on social media. It wasn't like I was doing it to like, hey, I'm better than you, this is what I'm doing.
No.
But it was like, I'm doing this so that I'm throwing it out there so that people know that I'm doing it. 1, to maybe inspire someone else to do it, and 2, to like just hold myself accountable. And
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I mean, whatever it takes for you to just get it done, like, yeah, whatever you need. But for me, it was more like I had preached how good the program was. And so I just wanted to like put it out there even more so. And I'm not someone that typically posts on social media. So like it was uncomfortable. And like I didn't really do it that often, but I still was like, hey, I'm doing it again. And like people pay attention because like I want to teach you what this is really about. And so in hindsight, me saying that I failed with pistachios probably did the reverse effect because people are even more repellent to like, I can't even have pistachios. What is this crazy program? I know that now. I did not know that then. But my point was that like I knew I wasn't going to be doing the program right if I continued. So I had to start over. That's the message I was trying to send.
yeah, I love it. I understood.
Well, the people that really are going to be interested in it are going to understand that. The ones that don't, like, okay, then you probably shouldn't be doing this anyway.
Yeah. And I
It's not for everybody.
it's not. And I want so badly it to be because I just think
It's been such a game changer for you. And me too.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it makes you better. So
To do it.
yeah, you do. I'll do it with you.
I'm surprised. You worked at First Form, didn't you?
No.
Oh,
No. I've worked with a lot of people from First One.
okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking. Okay. I just assume everyone that worked at First Form has done it.
Oh, I'm sure. I feel like that's like the standard.
I'm sure most of them have.
Yeah. Or done. Yeah.
At least attempted it.
Attempted it. Yeah.
But so it ended up being like it was 108 days. And that one was especially tough because St. Patty's Day is my favorite holiday. Just happens to be my husband's birthday as well, which makes it even more fun. But I'm a Finnegan at heart, so like I grew up with that. And I also had to be sober for that, which was like unthinkable for me. And then I had to be sober for a wedding in Austin, Texas. So one of my college friends got married. And so I was on track to finish 75 hard before that. But when I failed, that was like, so it was starting over. But what worried me more was those 2 events. But I was like, okay, here we go.
I'm doing it. Yeah.
This is big challenges. So I ended up doing it. St. Patty's Day, I was like, I had a cup of coffee. I was chiefing like the whole time for a cup of coffee. And you know, the Austin experience was interesting, but I came out of that like really proud of myself.
Yeah, for sure. When you go out and you see everybody else, you know, drinking and having a good time, and it's like you can still have fun, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just like once you realize that you don't have to drink to like enjoy and hang out with everybody, then you know it still has fun. You can still have fun,
Yeah, and
and you wake up the next morning feeling great. So
Yeah, I don't know why I have such reservations about doing it. I mean, I've gone a whole year without drinking before when I was playing baseball. But I don't know. I don't know why I haven't done it yet.
me and Gina have always, every time I've done it, we pick a time of year where it's a little bit warmer.
Right.
That makes it a little easier. You get an outdoor workout.
yeah,
I think that's the key because like my wife, I've got so much shit going on in my life. I think the hardest part for me is going to be getting the 2 workouts in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And with one having to be outside. Right. And so, you know, with kids, single dad life, work, me coaching a baseball team, hockey or jujitsu, all of the shit. It's like, does jujitsu count as one of work?
Oh yeah,
Does it?
for sure.
Does hockey?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think so. Yeah. It's just got to be a 45-minute workout. So yeah.
as long as
I would imagine your hockey game's at least 45 minutes. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I would say so. I would count it. I would count that. But now I wouldn't count like a round of golf.
No.
unless you walk it, I would say.
Well, yeah,
Like,
you have to.
if you have to walk it, I would say if you walked it, I would say, because I know that's a question a lot of people have. Like,
Yeah.
does a round of golf count, or does what was another one that I've heard? I know that's always the big one. Like, can I go golf and that counts as a workout? And I'm like, I feel like if you're just driving the cart, I feel like you're not really. But if you walk that whole course, then yeah, it's going to take you a lot longer.
Golfing or probably drinking.
A lot of times, yeah.
Usually,
Most.
Yeah.
which was another hard thing.
That's the only way I can play golf.
Yeah.
Play better. I better suck it.
Yeah. I'm not very good at golf, but I just like to go and hang out and drink with everybody and, just drive the cart around.
There you go.
That's all I like.
Smoke the cigars.
Yeah, smoke a cigar, hang out. Like, yeah. Anyway, so did 75 hard, and that was so 75 hard kind of really that's weird sound how that kind of catapulted you into.
I mean, it began that personal and professional growth. Building that discipline, that grit, that resilience, and just like mastering your mind. I thought it was about the physical, but it's all about the mental. And that's with starting my business. I had been building up, like in the background, I was doing the visualization. I was reading the 10 pages. I even challenged myself this past time around to do a cold plunge every day, which rocked my shit. Like, I am cold all the time. And it was in the winter. So for me to like have to get in a cold shower after I just come outside and I'm sweaty from the gym, like it was not my favorite, but I knew like it's not about the like cold plunge or the shower. It's about like what's happening in my head. And so I just had to I keep trusting that. And I had been looking for clarity in terms of like, what's my next move professionally? And I was doing visualization. I had interviewed at like Anheuser-Busch, where at the time my husband was there. And I thought, oh my God, we could work together. That would be so cool. That didn't pan out. And I had a couple interviews and I didn't get a fourth interview or third or whatever it was. And it was like, at the time it was disappointing, but it was like, okay, closed door. Where's the next open door? So this had all been building and I'd been looking for clarity. And then it was just like one day at work, I like had a meeting and I was kind of frustrated by the meeting and it just all clicked. And I thought, I got to do something here. So my choices were stay there and kind of build up that business, go to a different firm, or go out on my own. And I will say that going out on my own was like the last choice that I was going to make. I never seen it coming. And I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't have that confidence in myself, I guess.
It's scary.
Yeah. And like, who do I think I am? I can go out and I've been practicing for 5 years, but it's like just more and more I had gained that confidence and I had interviewed at other places and I got one offer. And it was like the dream job. It was what I would want to do if I could go back to law school, or my law school self. I'm way different now, but that would be my pick job. And it was something completely different. It was medical malpractice.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, oh my God, like I could do that, which is what I always thought I wanted to do. And I turned it down. And so I was like, oh my God, I am ready for this, and it helps. And I can't like underestimate or whatever. I got to give credit to everyone around me because my husband is like the most supportive spouse I could ever ask for. And my family and friends have been nothing but supportive. And I have been shocked by that actually, because I assumed, I'm a fan of Andy and it's like, everybody's going to make fun of you and hate you and like bring you down. And I don't know, maybe people are doing that behind my back, but to my face, like people have been very supportive. So they were supportive when I was like kind of making that decision. And it was really just like a couple weeks of that initial thought that I need to do something. And I said, this is my last day, or,
put in your notice or whatever.
Yeah. And I went to Europe in like the beginning of October. And so that just it just worked out that was going to be my last day. It was right before I left. So what had it been this long thought out process? Not really. Like it just kind of, the opportunity presented itself and it's like, I've come to a point now where I'm just more in tune with those presentations of opportunity. And so it's like I can recognize it and I can either not turn away or pretend I don't see it. But I chose to go with it, go with my gut. And again, it's like the support of people reassuring me. And there's been a lot of reassurance along the way, just like, I don't know, God, I believe in God, yes, and the universe. It's just like all these things are happening that it's like keeping me in the game whenever I doubt myself. And so, yeah, it's been, I mean, that was just in September, October. So it's been like incredible ever since, just figuring out like the different hats of owning a business, right? I mean, you guys know this. It's, the legal work is such a small portion now. I do like, you know, I have to do the admin work. I'm working on like starting to advertise myself on social media. Like that's all just a piece of it that I never had to do before. And, you know, that's like the beauty of it though, because I can make it whatever
Make it
I
what you want. It's you totally make it, it's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. Yeah. You know, you know, in every positive and negative way, yes, you reap all the benefits, but then when all the problems happen, it's all on you, and you don't really have anybody else to rely on. And that's just the part of owning a business. But I mean, I think the pros outweigh the cons personally.
Totally.
Yeah, you can either go the Lincoln lawyer route or Better Call Saul.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, you know, so in your business, you do estate planning. So, I guess basically how I view that is like, you know, what happens to your money and all your shit when you die. That,
yeah,
basically
No, explain the difference between that and what's the difference between that and a will?
So a will is like a piece of an estate plan. So an estate plan is a general umbrella term. And it's essentially correct, like what happens to your stuff after you die, but also what I want to start raising awareness to is what happens when you become incapacitated. Okay. So you get in a car accident, and like you are not able to manage your financial affairs. You're not able to make healthcare decisions. That's a very important piece that I think people often forget about. And so they're thinking, oh, it's my mortality. And especially young people, we don't want to think about us dying. We think we can live forever. So that's just like, I'll deal with that later. And so, but it is estate planning at its core is preparing for the inevitable. We're inevitably going to die. I hate to break it to people, and that sounds harsh, but it's the reality. And so estate planning is a way to set it up so that you have people in place, persons of authority to, you know, according to your wishes that you set up, take on that role of like, okay, this is what he wanted. I'm going to carry it out this way, you know? So it's, you're essentially naming like persons of authority and who you want your stuff to go to, beneficiaries. So within estate planning, there's wills, there's trusts, you know, there's financial powers of attorney, there's healthcare powers of attorney, there's deeds. You guys are very familiar with those. And like even estate planning, not everyone, but I would say most people, first of all, have assets, and most people have already begun estate planning. So let's say you are an employee, okay? You likely have a retirement set up with your employer, a 401k, whatever. When you set up that retirement account, you are designating a beneficiary. That's estate planning. So it's difficult to get young people to think about estate planning because they think, oh, I don't have enough assets. Like, you know, I don't have enough assets to do this for when I'm established, when I'm wealthier, whatever. But it's like, you do have assets. We have bank accounts. We have cars. You know, people our age have real property, one residential, maybe even more. So I'm trying to like debunk that thought that, oh, this is just for wealthy people and old people.
Yeah, something you're supposed to do when you're 50 or something.
Yeah, it's not true. And like, ironically, you have already participated in some aspect of estate planning. So it's a very broad term and it's wide. But, you know, when I meet with clients, it's just kind of meeting them where they're at. And I ask, generally speaking, like, what are your assets? But I don't need to know values. You know, any conversation between a client and myself is confidential completely. But it's like, I don't know if that's another aspect that maybe deters people, is they're like, I don't want this person
Don't her to know all my
my
shit.
stuff,
Yeah.
you know, but it's a confidential relationship. And ultimately, like, the first thing I usually do with estate planning is encourage people to do an inventory of their assets. And you'd be surprised, like, you know, when I was doing the inventory on our assets, like, there were certain things that I wasn't even thinking about that, oh, we need to take care of this.
Yeah. I'm sure there's shit that I'm like, that I don't even know, or that I know that we have, but like I totally forgot. or
Yeah.
something, you know?
Yeah. So it's a really good, been a really good practice that I'm trying to implement in all the plans that I do. But yeah, I think we have, to that point, we have more than we think we do. And so it's really important to set that stuff up now and then kind of like more easily amend it over time as things change with relationships and that kind of thing. But especially for people, you know, our age with young children, you've got to think about, okay, where are my assets going? And then who's taking care of my kids? So there's an entire like other piece of it that is so important. And it really boils down to you work so hard for your money, like make sure it goes to the people that you actually want it to go to. And also protect your family in terms of who's going to take care of them. But like, don't put them through all this unnecessary burden and emotion that they don't have to go through.
But anyway, so, you know, at what age do you think that somebody should get like an estate plan going?
18.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I actually know like 18-year-olds that have estate plans. And even so now, like clients who had their parents made them set it up when they were 18 and now they're 30 and married and they need to like
Adjust it. Can you like go and change things, I guess?
Yeah.
I would imagine so, right?
Usually like when you're 18, it is your parents making you do it. So they're just setting up like the very basics. You know, when you get married, I would encourage, you can do whatever you want, but usually what I see is like people set up a joint trust together, or you're considering this whole other person. When you're 18, you're kind of by yourself. So I would say 18 because I want to get to people as early as possible. In Missouri, at least, that's what we consider an adult. So, I mean, you know, full disclosure, like I didn't have one when I was 18 because I didn't know what estate planning was. So I think I have a long way to go to convince people of that. But, you know, at least now I'm 30, I can speak to that age and wow, like get your stuff together if you don't have one. Because, you know, a lot of my friends now have assets, even though they don't think they do. They are getting married or are married. They have multiple children. And it's like all those things that we talked about that you need to consider with respect to your children and your spouse. That's important to get set up now. And, you know, because if you don't do that, if you're not deciding where your stuff is going and who's in charge of it, the state's going to do that. So,
so if you don't have a will or a trust or anything, and like for example, Gina and I don't, like, and if we were both killed in a car accident tomorrow, like the state's figuring out what happens to all our shit and the boys and everything.
yeah.
Fuck. Okay.
Yeah. So,
Go on.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna get on that. We're gonna talk after this.
So when you die without an estate, it's called intestacy. And there's laws of intestacy in every state, but in Missouri, there's like a certain hierarchy of how your assets will be distributed. So it's like rules for the court to follow. So like if you say you're married, you have children, okay, presumably, and correct me if I'm wrong, you would want your spouse to get everything to take care of the kids, right?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Well, if you don't have an estate plan in place, Missouri intestacy law says my spouse gets the first $20,000 of my estate, and then the balance is split evenly between my spouse and my children. So now, I mean, technically, and that presents a problem because that portion that goes to your children who are
Can't touch till they're 18, I would imagine, right?
bingo. So your spouse has to be then appointed. They're going to be guardian. but they have to be conservator, and conservator is managing assets for people, whether they're incapacitated or underaged. So there's more court involvement even with that. So there's huge ramifications for not having an estate plan, even when you think like things are going to go the way that you want. And that's just if you have mutual children. That's the setup for mutual children. If you're married and let's say you have one child who was with a previous spouse, then half of your estate goes to your spouse and the other half goes to the children. So it doesn't go the way people think that it does. They just assume. And so, yeah, when the state is deciding, when your estate's going intestacy, you're dying intestate, it's going through the court system to do that conservatorship, to distribute these funds. Your spouse has to go to the financial institution where maybe you have a bank account that he or she is not named on, and has to present this court document. Like, I'm the spouse. No, I need proof that you have the authority to distribute these funds. So it becomes a huge burden for people's family. And ultimately your assets get tied up in the court system. They're subject to court filing fees, attorney's fees. You need an attorney to open an estate, at least now. And so these costs are getting eaten up. You can otherwise, if you have an estate plan, you preserve your assets, you protect your family. And when there's older children, or when there's like different family dynamics, shit can get ugly, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of what I dealt with litigation. And so you're kind of mitigating the risks of things going south, because it's like, no, this is the way mom and dad wanted it, so this is how we're going to do it, as opposed to, I don't know, we'll do it how we want to do it,
Ever on top of while you're grieving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an important point, because I think I hear a lot of my single friends say, like, well, I'm a spouse, I don't have kids, like, whatever.
Family. You got parents.
Right. And so, and like, what do they say? Whoever they are, say losing a child is the worst thing that someone can go through. You're losing a child, and then you're having to deal with all this other crap. So it's like, that's, I think, really important to know as like a single person. And then when you're married and you have kids, you're making those people go through it. So it's just
I would imagine if you don't have an estate plan in place, that I would imagine like you said, there's attorney fees, there's court fees, and there's all these other fees that that you're gonna have to pay, when you could just hire someone like you up front decades before it's actually needed, and it'll probably cost you a lot less than what or maybe not less, but it'll save you so much time and headaches and everything if you just have a plan in place beforehand.
Yeah, it will ultimately cost you less.
I would imagine, right? I mean,
yeah,
I don't
and
know
almost
what,
every
Clerical, like having an insurance policy.
right.
Depending on or like life insurance. The earlier you get a life insurance policy,
Yeah.
the cheaper it's going to be for you.
yeah,
That's how I always looked at it. I've always looked at it, and trusts were explained, and estate planning was explained to me. So
yeah, it's absolutely right. Life insurance, I think, even like car insurance. You're not going to drive a car that you're not insured, or there will be legal ramifications for that. And it's the same thing with estate planning. There's going to be all these court costs we talk about, and really like the headache of it all. And your fees, there's delays. Like I never know how long a case is going to take, whether that be litigation or like administering an estate, because I don't know, like a lot of it is out of my control, and that frustrates a lot of my clients. And that's kind of one of the hardest things for me, is that there is only so much control I have. And so, yeah, you're leaving it to the control of others. And so it can come with a lot of burden of that. I mean, I think, it's hard to convince a 30-year-old to spend however many $1,000 when, especially I'm 30, I'm going to live forever, like I said. But
sounds
I don't know. I like it here.
if I stay here.
Here's all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess we haven't really talked about it, but we're not in our usual spot today.
Easy of adventure unknown.
Yeah. So there's some construction going on in the back, and there's jackhammering the floor up. So
Well, she was talking about cold plunge. You know, they're putting in a hot and cold plunge back to life.
Yeah. So yeah. You got a free day pass or what?
of course, you can come up here whenever you want. Yeah.
We can have, we can have 5 people here at any given time.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Okay.
The party and have 10 all
Yeah.
together.
Zach and Pat show party.
Pickleball tournament.
Yeah, pickleball tournament. There we go.
Yeah, let's go, Fenton. Get your shit together. By 2 episodes in a row and saying they haven't approved it yet.
Oh.
Apparently, it needs to be approved by Fenton before we can use it, which seems kind of silly.
We haven't used it at all. There's no video proof of me and my kids playing pickleball at all.
Zero.
Gone.
Do you have the paddles now? You ready to
I have all this stuff.
Oh,
Oh, sweet. Ready to rock. Yeah.
sweet.
I've never played pickleball, honestly. I mean, it looks fun. I feel like that's like the new thing over like the last couple of years.
5 minutes and get a workout in.
Well, there you go. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's like the new thing. Everybody's like, they open up all like the chicken and pickle place.
You guys never play in high school? We had a whole pickleball.
We did.
We had a whole pickleball thing, like a section of gym class.
Really?
Part of the semester was pickleball.
Yeah.
And then like it was different, like your football and hockey, like all these different ones.
Really?
Pickleball was one of them.
Huh. Yeah, we never.
I do that shit.
Yeah, it's so fun. We did that in high school. We did that in grade school too, which,
No, yours.
uh,
Line dancing. That's how old.
oh God.
Line dancing.
I think we did. Square dancing.
Square dancing.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, we did that too, I guess.
Something where you teach you how to fall so you don't get hurt.
Oh my God. What
Yeah.
are we? That's actually more productive than a lot of things I probably
I
learned.
mean, it's useful.
Yeah.
For sure. That's one thing I feel like with like jujitsu has helped me, like being able to fall. Right, dude. I didn't even tell Gina this that I did this, but yesterday because it's been snowing here, like we're like a couple inches of snow outside, and everybody's school's been called off for like the last 3 days, and I was basically walking from my driveway into my garage, and I just full feet up, but like the way I landed, it like didn't hurt at all. Like I was like, well, I'm used to getting thrown on the ground, a couple times a week. So,
There you go.
I guess that's just that's one of the benefits of, getting thrown around all the time. You're going to get good at falling.
Transferable skills, man.
For sure.
I was walking, this was the other night. We were just walking around Francis Park. We live in South City. And my foot, I was not paying attention, but it just went through the ice. I mean, up to my knee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was like
In the water or like?
it wasn't water. It was just a huge hole. I have no clue where it came from. I wanted to go back. This happened, what day is it? Wednesday? It happened Monday. And I wanted to go back yesterday and check it out.
Figure out what it is.
Yeah. I was just like, did this pop out of nowhere? And I mean, I was right in front of a church, so I don't know, looking for the signs there. Like I made it out scot-free, but yeah, it was, be careful.
Yeah. You never know where you're going
Road luck traveled, but anyway, I don't know where I was. I'm sorry.
to. This one kind of going off on a tangent there, but anyway.
Trust the
Yeah, trust estates. So what else, is there anything else you think people need to, kind of know about trust, estate planning, trusts, wills, any of those things that we didn't touch on already?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, like, if people have questions, I mean, I can, like, go into, like, the different documents of it, but
Some of the basic documents required, like if I were to call you, say, hey, I'm looking to get a trust started or estate planning started, what are the documents that obviously you have your interview questions and things that you're going to want to find out, but like what are some of the basic documents that you're looking for? Like I have basic documents when people call me to buy a house, W-2s, pay stubs, bank statements, boom. Going to need those no matter what with who I'm working with.
yeah.
Is there something like that? Like, is there a basic set of documents that people should have on hand, ready to rock and roll when they call you to set up an estate?
I mean, not necessarily. Like I said, I like to meet clients where they're at. Like, there's some people that know the process, some people that just need to amend their stuff and they've already gotten the spiel. But there's also people that have stuff or don't have stuff and just like are like, what is this? Like, do I need a trust? Do I need a will? Are they the same thing? So I usually just like the first question I ask is, okay, what do you know about it? Because I don't want to be redundant. And so,
What's the difference between a trust and a will?
so a trust and a will, when I'm typically like educating people, first and foremost, I want people to know what they're doing and why they're doing it. And some people don't care, but I would like people to care because it is so important. But when I'm typically like talking about a general estate plan, basic estate plan, you're talking about a trust, you're talking about a will. It's the 4 core: trust, will, financial power of attorney, and healthcare power of attorney. So that's like the comprehensive plan. Now, not everybody needs that. Like I said, I mean, if you have a retirement account and a bank account, put a beneficiary on that and you're good. But there are reasons for having the trust. Specifically, it keeps it out of that court system. It bypasses that probate process. So probate is like generally like the court process of administering an estate. And so when you have a trust, you're essentially setting it up so you're the grantor, the creator of the trust, and you're also the trustee, so the authority figure, until you become incapacitated and you can't do it. But that's why you have these provisions in place to say, well, if I become incapacitated or I die, this person's taking over. So you're setting up a trust, you're putting your assets into the trust, your house, your checking, savings, investment accounts. You do not put retirement in there. There's tax implications involved. If you change ownership from yourself to a trust with IRAs and that kind of stuff, it's taxable. That's a taxable event. So we leave those out. But all that other stuff, real property, you're going to essentially change the ownership of that to your trust. And the trust is a separate entity, but you still own it. You still have full control over it until like those things happen. So.
Well, what about like death benefits, like on life insurance policies? So I've got a bunch of life insurance policies set up.
When you want those paid out to the trust, so the funds are in the trust versus being dispersed to the beneficiaries of those trusts? Because my kids are the beneficiaries of my life insurance policies. If I were to die today, that's a 5 and 6-year-old getting a lot of money.
Yeah.
When I want that going into the trust for them versus, is that a little bit different than what you're talking about in terms of retirement accounts?
No, that retirement accounts and life insurance policies, like typically you name individuals as beneficiaries, as you said, but you can name the trust as a beneficiary. So you don't want to necessarily change ownership to the trust, but if the trust is a beneficiary, say something happened to you and your kids are still under the age of majority, it's going to belong, your assets involved with that will belong to the trust and they'll be administered according to the trust.
You're saying instead of putting the policies in the name of the trust, you just make the trust the beneficiary.
Exactly.
So just take the kids off as the beneficiary, and my policies have the trust set up as the beneficiary, and then the kids are on the trust.
Right.
And that's how you would set that up, the best way to do that for kids.
Yeah. And the benefit of that is because if the kids are named, it's going to be subject to like a conservatorship, like I mentioned before, conservatorship because they're under the age of majority. So somebody has to be appointed by the court to manage that money. The trust is going to pick it up, and whoever you named as trustee is going to manage that within the trust. It bypasses that process. And typically when I'm setting up a trust, I will have like this sub trust created within there, and it allows for management of those assets if like a young child was the beneficiary of a trust and something happens and it's like, okay, they're still young. That trustee is going to manage it for their lifetime, and then you can set a specific age, not for their whole lifetime, but you set a specific age that, okay, when this kid turns 18, 25, I want full distribution. So let's say the child is like 5 years old when something happens. The trustee is going to manage that and make sure that the kid is taken care of. And then if your trust is set up, well, make full distribution when he turns 18. When he turns 18, boom. So, but you're not asking for court permission. With a conservatorship, you get appointed, and then the court is overseeing all this. You have to ask the court for, I need to use these funds for schooling, healthcare, blah, 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 like all basic things. And the court's not going to say no to that, but you still have to ask the court for that. And so those particular assets, we would keep those out of the trust, but we would name the trust as a beneficiary. And so because the trust only manages what is in the trust, right? So for those particular assets, your financial healthcare power of attorney, that's where if you became incapacitated, that's going to step in and you're going to have agents named to manage those assets if you're unable to. So kind of circling back, you've got the trust that manages the assets within the trust. And then typically
Could I put my financial advisor on there?
Sure.
That,
Yeah.
Then once so I pass away, the money gets transferred to the trust.
Then the financial advisor I assign to the trust can go in and then take the money and reinvest it elsewhere. Is that?
Yeah, as long as you're using that money for the benefit of the beneficiaries.
Yeah.
And actually, like if you're not doing anything with that money to like grow it or diversify, that's could be seen down the line as like a breach of your duty because you're supposed to, as trustee, manage those as best you can for.
Well, that's why I'm like, if I pass away, I want somebody to take.
All that money, and while considering Connor and Oliver aren't going to be able to get it for 13, 14 years. Yeah.
Right. And, obviously there'll be, I'll say, hey, this is how much per year goes to my ex-wife for the care of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Splitting costs with her like we've been doing. Also don't want her. Sorry, Melissa.
Huh.
I don't want you to get
It's for the kids. But anyway, yeah, like I would want somebody to come, like, so you wouldn't, because that's not your fiduciary duty, is to manage the funds and making sure they're invested. I would need to add a financial advisor as a part of the trust that can go in and reinvest those funds somewhere else.
Yes, that's the trustee's duty. So if the trustee's a financial advisor, great. If the trustee is average Joe, whoever, then they would want like a financial advisor overseeing that.
Dude, so I could actually name, my financial advisor. So I could actually name her in the trust as one of the trustees then of it. Okay.
Yeah, she would essentially be the successor trustee to you.
Gotcha.
So you have power as long as you are able to do it. And
That's something that you would recommend somebody doing is so being a single father, pass away, naming my financial advisor, is that a smart move, naming them as a trustee to that?
Yeah, I mean, if you trust that person, if you have like a good enough relationship that you think is going to sustain time, and honestly, I see people amend their trust all the time to name different people.
Yeah.
Right. So if things change, you can always just amend it, and it's quick, it's easy. But yeah, I think that's a great thought. I think thinking about like who are going to be those persons of authority for you. It depends. It's different for everybody, right? Your circumstances is different than Zach's circumstances. So, it's just like knowing that the person's going to do a good job and, they have certain fiduciary duties that they have to follow, best interest of the beneficiaries.
Or even if you don't be able to a financial advisor, but you even know within your will stating like, hey,
as the trustee of this, I want this person to manage my funds, so that they then take those funds and transfer it to people that we name in the will to manage the funds? Or is that something, I guess, different?
So is that, in that scenario, is the trustee your financial?
So let's just say I name Zach as my trustee. And within the will, though, then I state, Zach, I want this person, my financial advisor, to manage the funds within this trust. So then Zach now has his fiduciary duty is make sure those funds get to that financial advisor.
His fiduciary duty is to make sure he's acting in the best interest of your beneficiary. So, yes, you could write that down.
But he might think that that's not the best. And
yeah, and he might be right, he might be wrong. If he's wrong and somebody contests it, then there might be issues there. I guess what I'm getting at is if you want that, yes, write that down. And Zach's a good guy. More likely than not, he's going to honor your wishes. I just, I can't help but to think with my litigation brain, which is like, where can that go awry?
Right.
And
That's why I'm asking, because I want your litigation brain to be like, you should probably do it this way.
yeah, I mean, it's still something written down that is your last wish. Now, what's the like efficacy or what grounds can that document stand on? I don't know if it's notarized, like then you have another person to come in and say, yeah, that's what he wanted. It gets a little hairy with that. But it's not to say, I would say 9 times out of 10, like the person's going to do the right thing, and unless it's not a good move for where your assets need to go. But there's that like percentage that I'm always thinking about. Like there's nothing like necessarily holding that trustee to that specific task.
Gotcha.
That's why I wanted to. Just there's more wiggle room for you to do it that, or for the person that's named as the trustee. Like you, as so me dying, I don't have as much control if I just put it in my will and give it to and then name Zach the trustee. Whereas if I had named my financial advisor as the trustee, that gives me a little bit more say in like how that's going to work. Because obviously that financial advisor is going to do what's best for that with the money.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have to think too, like, are you thinking that financial advisor is at a certain firm that I like them to be at? Maybe if something happens 30 years from now and that person is maybe no longer a financial advisor. So like you have to decide what's important for you. And, I say like, you could technically put that in the trust. It is very uber specific. I haven't seen it to where it says like, I want this person to be trustee, but I want that financial advisor to be overseeing it. But, like if that's what you want in there, we could put that in there. What happens afterwards, like probably what you want, most likely what you want will happen. But there is that little like piece of me that's like, well, someone could argue that wasn't the best thing for the beneficiaries. But you have to think too, like, who's going to contest that? Is anyone actually going to contest? I mean, there's plenty of like things where people could come in and make a big stink, but really no one wants to deal with it. So they just kind of just let it go the way that they should. And so, there's that too. But you want to have as much control as you can. And so, putting that in writing would be a good idea no matter what. And then
I guess that was kind of the point that I was trying to make. You get so much more control when you set up an estate plan versus letting
totally
the state. Yeah, was the last thing I wanted to review.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just like you have to hire an attorney.
You have to hire an attorney anyway. So it's like, why don't you do it beforehand, and then you get you get everything that you want to happen with all your stuff.
Yeah, and there's like a certain statute under Missouri law that gives lawyers like when they are, the lawyer that helps clients open up an estate, like there's a statutory fee, like it's a percentage of the assets, and so I myself don't utilize that statute. I just charge hourly basis, but like it can amount to a pretty good
I imagine
number. And like proportionally speaking, like I've had some family members, they've had to open up an estate for like their dad's checking account that's really not worth that much, and an attorney's taking a huge piece of that just by like percentage of the value. And it's like, I don't even care about this, but like I have to do this, and so it just I don't know.
I didn't realize that was a way to do it. That was a way to do it. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So a percentage base. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Just flat fee.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just like our business, I guess. A little different, but
yeah.
Wow.
So yeah. I mean, when you have a trust, like people are like, so trust or will, you usually want to have both anyway. And that's because if you have like assets outside of the trust, not like retirement or life insurance, you'll have beneficiaries, so those stay out of the court system still. But if you like acquire a property later in life that you forget about, or leave something out because you didn't take inventory, then there's this will that's there too. It's still going to have to go through the probate court, but if you name your trust, it works in tandem with your trust. So your trust is the beneficiary under your will, and then the medical healthcare power of attorney. So that's like another huge piece of estate planning that people don't necessarily like think right away. But it's like that scenario is where things are dicey. Like it's a tough situation for your family to be in anyway, because you're in a position where you can't make healthcare decisions, right? And so leaving that to chance is just like so much worse for your family than if you had like specifically a person named in there to make decisions according to the way that you would want. And so it Missouri's form specifically is like healthcare power of attorney, which names an agent to have the power to make those decisions, to be able to designate their power, to decide disposition of your remains, to decide like anatomical gifts. And assuming you are talking to that person about that. I mean, Brian and I the other day like brought up, do you want to be cremated or buried? And it's like, I can't believe I'm having this conversation, but it's important because he's my agent under my power of attorney. And like, you know, I want him to do what I would want
To happen.
Yeah. So
You can pre-plan your
Funeral?
funeral.
I've heard about that, yeah. Seems a little crazy, but
That was part of the networking group that I was in. And that's what she did, was pre-planning
Yeah.
your death.
Well, I think you pay over a period of time, which is like in the long run, it'll save you tens of thousands of dollars.
I'm sure.
Doing it up front versus doing it at the time. So
Wow.
those people are amazing. They have so much forethought. My grandma was one of those people. And she has 5 children. So that's my mom's mom. She had it down to, I want these songs played. She had the money for the altar boys or girls for the funeral. It was like amazing. It went so seamless. And it was like, this is going to sound some type of way, but it made her death like that much easier for our family to process. And like we could think about all the happy times. We weren't being drugged through this mess. And it's like my mom and her siblings get along fine, but like, you know, like there's always room for a little bit of debate. And it was like, it was a beautiful thing. And it was like such a gift to her family to be able to do that. And I'm sure that wasn't easy for her. I mean, she was a widow and she's planning out her death, and that's not fun for anybody. But like, you have to think about your family, and like, it was the best possible scenario for us because we were able to grieve properly, and it just like makes you like, it makes it kind of a beautiful experience. We all knew it was coming, right?
Sure,
But
of course.
so yes, that's a piece of it too. That's really interesting because some people get really deep in that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And that's a big expense usually when like someone dies. And you know, the funeral expense is a big one. And so that's usually coming right out of the estate. And I think people don't often think about that.
Big money.
Yeah.
Funerals are, lots of money.
Yeah. There's a lot of money to be made in that.
Cremating,
Yeah.
but donate my organs, cool, go for it. But
Yeah, I don't really care what you do with it after I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't need to be in a hole. I don't need to be in a grave personally. I don't know. Maybe
extra trash.
Gino. Yeah. Well, Katie, this has been awesome having you on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks,
is there
guys.
anything that that we didn't cover that you wanted to chat about?
I don't think so.
So, I always like to end it with one last question. We call it the tombstone game. Here lies Katie. What does it say on your tombstone?
I'm in the market for a tattoo, so I'm thinking of so many different things. Probably, like, I guess I'm speaking for me, I got out of my own way. I think that there were so many, like, mental blocks that I just thought I couldn't do this, or, you know, I'm not capable of that. And 75 Hard really brought me out of that. And so I finally got out of my own way, and it's been like a process of growing. And I think that that's just an important thing for people to realize, that like you are capable of almost anything that you set your mind to. So get out of your own way, and you know, you're the only person standing in the way. So that's
I love it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for paying attention to the show. If you haven't clicked that subscribe button yet, if you go ahead and click that for us, that would help us out a ton. Click that like button down below, comment what you guys thought, and we will see you next time.